Maybe your family loved you deeply, and even so, they may have taught you to stay poor, not because they wanted to destroy you, but because they could only pass on the reality they knew. Maybe you grew up hearing that money corrupts, that the rich always cheat, that aspiring for too much is dangerous, that you should settle, that it's better to have little and be humble, that charging more is taking advantage of others, and now those voices no longer need to be present. Only 1 in 100 will understand the silent violence of this programming. Because to build a different economic reality, you might have to question beliefs you inherited from the people you love the most. Why do you think a hidden loyalty threatens you? The loyalty to not surpass those who came before you. The loyalty to suffer in the same way. The loyalty to repeat the family history so you can keep feeling like you belong. Jacobo Grinberg researched how perception and consciousness participate in the experience we call reality. And if we apply that question to money, does a huge possibility emerge? What if you aren't viewing the economic world firsthand? And what if you're trying to create wealth with a perception inherited from people who never learned how to keep it? Maybe you're not afraid of failing. Maybe you're afraid of being the first in your family who doesn't need to do it anymore. But before we continue, pause the video. Put a hand on your chest and think about your family. You don't need to reject them to stop repeating their limitations. Breathe and say, I honor your story, but I will not inherit your fears. Overcoming them is not betraying them. Maybe it's finishing a battle they couldn't finish. Jacobo Grinberg questioned the reality we accept as definitive. Now question the economic reality you inherited. Write in the comments, I love you all, but the pattern ends with me. You don't build only what you want. You build over and over again what your identity considers possible. You can consciously desire wealth and at the same time protect an identity that says, money never stays with me. I wasn't born for business. Opportunities are for others. Making too much money is dangerous. If I succeed, my family will stop recognizing me. Rich people are selfish. I'm not smart enough. I'm not ready yet. My past determines how far I can go. These phrases are not magic commands sent to the universe. They are filters. They influence what you observe, the price you dare to charge, the skills you decide to learn, the conversations you avoid, the risks you analyze, the relationships you build, how long you persist, and above all, in the explanation you give for your results. When a person believes that opportunities never come, they might ignore a nearby need that they could turn into a service. When they believe they have nothing valuable, they might give away for years a skill that others would be willing to pay for. When they believe that making money requires betraying themselves, they might sabotage their projects just when they start to grow. The filter doesn't need to trap your body. It only needs to decide what information deserves to enter your consciousness. This is where Jacobo Grinberg's ideas become important. Grinberg was a Mexican psychologist and neurophysiologist who dedicated much of his work to researching consciousness, perception, and the creation of experience. His disappearance left his name shrouded in mystery. But the true value of his work does not depend on that enigma. It depends on the questions he dared to ask about the relationship between the brain, consciousness, and what we experience as reality. In his work, Grinberg explored a fundamental idea. The world we experience does not reach our consciousness as a completely neutral copy of the outside world. The nervous system participates in the organization of experience. Memory plays a role. Attention is involved. Personal history is involved. Brain activity is involved. In the creation of experience, His approach is based on the idea that what we call the external world is described through processes that occur in our brain and our consciousness. Previously, his synergic theory proposed a model in which perceptible experience would arise from the interaction between brain activity, expressed in what he called the neuronal field, and a fundamental structure of space, which he called lattice. It was a theoretical proposal about the creation of experience, not a formula to attract money. He didn't teach how to become a millionaire. He didn't leave a secret financial ritual. He didn't prove that thinking about money physically produces bills. But if we carefully transfer his questions about perception to the economic sphere, a disturbing possibility arises. What happens to a person's financial life when they change the filter through which they interpret money, opportunities, and their own abilities? Think about two people who lose their jobs. The external situation may seem identical. The first one interprets, "This shows that I will never have this skill." His attention starts looking for evidence of defeat. He isolates himself. He avoids learning. He accepts whatever he's given because he believes he has no choice. The second one also feels afraid, but he interprets, "This is a setback that I need to understand." He reviews his skills. He asks what problems there are and what he can solve. He talks to people. He detects needs. He learns something new. He tries paths he hadn't considered before. The loss was real for both of them. The pain was real. The external conditions were real. What changed was the relationship between the event and the identity that interpreted it. Wealth doesn't start only in a bank account. It starts in the internal model a person uses to recognize problems, interpret risks, evaluate their abilities, make decisions, and create value. This doesn't mean that every financial difficulty is caused by mindset. There is inequality, crisis, illness, family responsibilities, lack of access, and circumstances that limit real options. To deny it would be cruel. But acknowledging external conditions doesn't mean giving up all personal agency to them. This is where the real prohibition comes in. This video is not prohibited by the system. It is blocked by the identity that needs your reality to stay the same. The mind protects what is known, even when what is known hurts. An identity of scarcity can produce frustration, but it remains familiar. And what is familiar often feels safer than the unknown. That's why you might reject an opportunity without analyzing it, or ridicule an idea that forces you to grow. You might postpone a call, avoid showing your work, charge less than you should, give up before getting enough information, or go back again and again to decisions you already know don't work. Not because there's some evil force inside you, but because your identity is trying to maintain a predictable reality. Someone might say, "I want to earn more, but deep down I expect to lose it." You may want clients and yet fear being visible. You may want financial freedom and feel guilty when charging. You may imagine success and fear no longer belonging to your family. You may ask for opportunities while avoiding any situation where you could be rejected. Economic identity is not just a phrase. It is a system made up of expectations, emotions, habits, decisions, boundaries, and automatic reactions. Identity is not revealed in what you say you want. It is revealed in what you repeat when no one is watching you. Now the step-by-step begins. Take paper and pencil. I'm not going to ask you to repeat an affirmation that your mind considers impossible. We are going to identify and progressively modify the filter through which you are perceiving your financial reality. Protocol for Reconfiguring Economic Reality. This is a modern practice inspired by ideas about perception, attention, and identity. This is not a financial technique documented by Jacobo Grinberg. It is not a secret method attributed to him. and it does not guarantee wealth. Its function is to help you observe your programming, direct your attention, and turn a new perception into concrete decisions. Step 1. Define a single economic reality. Do not write, "I want to be rich." That sentence is too broad. Your attention needs a clear direction. Choose a single financial goal. You can increase your monthly income. Get your first 5 clients. Eliminate a debt. Monetize a skill. Create an additional source of income. Start a project. Develop a professional skill. Write down what you want to achieve, why you want it, and what would be the first observable evidence that you are making progress. For example, I want to generate an additional 500 euros per month by offering video editing services to reduce my debt. The first piece of evidence will be presenting a clear offer to 3 potential clients. Being specific does not force reality to obey you. Being specific organizes your attention. The most common mistake is trying to pursue 10 desires at once. A house, a car, a business, freedom, travel, investments. When everything is a priority, nothing really guides your decisions. Choose a reality. Step 2. Discover the current filter. Quickly complete these sentences. When I think about earning more money, the first thing I feel is rich people are, to make a lot of money, if I were successful, I could lose in my family money. It meant don't try to seem positive. Don't correct your answers. Don't write what you think you should think. Write the first thing that comes up. You might discover fear, guilt, shame, distrust, anger, or the belief that wealth always requires suffering. The first answers don't necessarily reveal the truth. They reveal the filter. And you can't consciously modify a filter that continues to operate in the dark. The most common mistake is to immediately replace it with an opposite affirmation. Money loves me. I'm a millionaire. Everything comes easily. That can bring relief for a few minutes. But if the core identity doesn't consider it believable, the conflict remains intact. First, observe. Step 3. Separate the fact from the interpretation. Choose one of your money beliefs and divide the sheet into 2 parts. On the first part, write verifiable fact. What really happened? In the second one, interpretation. Which conclusion did you turn into part of your identity? Fact, a previous project held. Interpretation, I'm not good at building businesses. Fact, you grew up in a family with financial problems. Interpretation, money always causes suffering. Fact, a client rejected your proposal. Interpretation, no one will pay for my work. Fact, you lost money because of a decision. Interpretation, I don't know how to manage money and I'll never learn. The event may have been painful. You don't need to deny it. But an event can be part of your story without becoming the entire structure of your reality. The most common mistake is arguing with what happened. You don't need to pretend that the project was successful. You need to question the fixed identity you built from it. An experience contains information. A judgment aims to close off the future. Step 4. Suspend the filter for 2 minutes. Close your eyes. Breathe naturally. Remember the belief you chose. Don't repeat the phrase obsessively. Notice what happens in your body when it appears. You might feel pressure in your chest, tension in your abdomen, tightness in your throat, restlessness in your hands. Don't fight the feeling. Don't try to get rid of it. Observe it. Acknowledge. This is a pattern I learned. Stay there without obeying it, without turning it into a prophecy, without demanding that it disappear. For a few seconds, allow the belief to be something in your awareness and not the absolute definition of who you are. What you can observe no longer occupies exactly the same place as what you're completely identified with. This phrase literally belongs to Grinberg. It's a practical way to express the shift between being trapped inside a pattern and beginning to contemplate it. The most common mistake is trying to empty the mind. You don't need to stop thinking. You need to discover that you can feel fear without letting fear make all the decisions. Step 5, build a coherent representation. Now imagine a simple scene that would show that your goal is starting to become a reality. You don't need to visualize a mansion. Don't imagine millions falling from the sky. Picture a believable experience that's related to your goal. Maybe you're looking over a steadier income stream, talking to a new client, presenting a project, delivering a high-value job, paying off a debt, or properly managing a larger amount of money. Notice what you see, what you hear, what sensations appear in your body, how you speak, how you respond. What decision are you able to make in that scene? And above all, who are you learning to be? Don't use visualization as a spell. Use it as a representation that organizes attention and behavior. If you imagine delivering a valuable service, your next question should be, what skill do I need to improve to do it? If you imagine receiving more money, ask yourself, what system do I need to manage it? If you imagine new clients, ask yourself, what offer do I need to learn to communicate? The most common mistake is falling in love with the reward and removing from the picture the person capable of creating it. Don't just visualize what you receive, visualize how you act. Step 6. Activate your opportunity radar. Answer 3 questions every day. What problem around me could I help solve? Which of my skills could generate more value? What opportunity would my old identity have ignored? Then, observe your surroundings. Look for needs, recurring problems, people who need help, knowledge you can develop, resources you already have, possible connections, poorly delivered services, processes that could be simplified, an economic opportunity. It doesn't always appear as a golden door. Sometimes it appears as a complaint, a delay, an ignored need. A person who can't find a solution, a task that everyone considers annoying, knowledge that seems normal to you but is valuable to someone else. Your mind shouldn't just wait for supernatural signs. It must learn to detect relevant information. The most common mistake is to confuse opportunity with a guarantee. Recognizing a possibility doesn't mean it will work. It means it deserves to be investigated, tested, and adjusted. Step 7. Take action within 24 hours. The protocol ends when you take action, not when you feel inspired. Choose a small, observable, measurable, and achievable action before the end of the next day. Make a call. Send a proposal. Ask how much a training program costs. Check your prices. Post an offer. Contact a potential client. Design the first version of a service. Organize your finances. Cut an unnecessary expense. Ask for help. Present a project. Try out an idea. Don't choose an action that's too big. Choose an action that produces new information. Because even a no can give you useful information. It can show you that you need to improve your proposal, change your audience, acquire a skill, or communicate more clearly. The most common mistake is to replace action with more preparation. Another video, another book, another course, another week spent thinking. A perception that never turns into action ends up being just another fantasy. You can sum up this daily practice in a simple way. 2 minutes to observe the scarcity filter without fully identifying with it. 2 minutes to clearly represent the economic reality you are building. 2 minutes to identify opportunities, resources, people, or solvable problems. And a concrete decision to take action that day. There is no evidence that 6 minutes guarantee wealth. This duration only creates an easy-to-repeat structure. Work for a reasonable period on the same goal. Observe your responses. Record your actions. Review the information you receive. Make any necessary corrections. Identity doesn't change just because you say a new phrase. It changes when you accumulate evidence that you can respond in a different way. First, you make a call that you used to avoid. Then you present a proposal. Then you learn to tolerate rejection. You improve your work. You get a result. You manage a larger amount. Each action produces information. Each result can update your self-image. That's why this method can be useful. It reduces automatic self-identification with certain beliefs. It directs attention to relevant data. It forces you to define a goal. It connects reflection with behavior. It increases the possibility of detecting opportunities. It generates new evidence. And it allows for gradually rebuilding your financial identity. From an interpretation inspired by the Grinberg model, we could say that it changes the relationship between the observer and their experience. It modifies the way in which they participate in the construction of their reality. But that doesn't mean that the mind controls all events. It means that the observer can change the way they perceive, decide, and respond. And those responses can produce real economic consequences. Here is where the trap of passive manifestation appears. Many people don't want to create wealth. They want to feel for a few minutes that they are already rich, without going through the discomfort of becoming someone capable of creating, receiving, managing, and sustaining more value. Visualizing without acting isn't enough. Affirming without learning isn't enough. Meditating without deciding is not enough. Waiting without creating value is not enough. Watching videos without applying anything is not enough either. The internal transformation must impact the external world. Wealth usually appears when a person learns to solve problems, create something useful, communicate value, manage resources, develop skills, build relationships, and adapt. This does not make money a perfect measure of human value. A person can have enormous dignity and receive few resources. But money can work as a form of exchange related to the value someone is able to create, communicate it, and sustain it under certain conditions. That's why the goal isn't to obsess over chasing money. It's to increase your capacity. Capacity to observe, capacity to learn, capacity to serve, capacity to negotiate, capacity to manage, capacity to recover, capacity to act without needing absolute guarantees. Changing your identity has a cost. Maybe you should let go of the excuse that has protected you for years, the habit of procrastination, the fear of being visible, the need for approval, the comfort of charging low prices to avoid criticism, the habit of interpreting every difficulty as a sign that you should give up. You don't need to destroy your health. You don't need to sacrifice all your relationships. You don't need to glorify exhaustion. You need smart discipline, learning, consistency, flexible persistence, and the willingness to correct yourself without turning every mistake into a personal humiliation. The death of the previous identity is not a physical death. It's the psychological moment when you stop automatically obeying the version of yourself that needed nothing to change. But there's one question left. Maybe the most important one of all. Why do you want to be rich? Don't answer too quickly. Do you want freedom, security, time to protect your family, to create, to contribute, to see the world, to build a legacy, to study, to serve, to choose without every decision being ruled by financial fear? Wealth without direction can become another form of emptiness. Wealth with purpose can become a tool. Money amplifies possibilities, but you need to decide what you want to use them for. And now we can go back to the beginning. The forbidden video was never a file that only the one could play. It was a message that could only be used by those who were willing to question the filter with which they had built their reality, economic reality. Millions can hear these words. Many will feel motivated. Some will save the video. Others will immediately look for other content that gives them a similar feeling. But the one will do something different. He will take a sheet of paper. He will choose a goal. He will observe his filter. He will separate fact from interpretation. He will build a coherent representation. He'll spot an opportunity. And he will take action before the day is over. The difference isn't in who made it to the end. It's in who allows what they've learned to influence their next decision. Many will come across this video. Very few will truly allow this video to find them. Write a single word that represents the economic reality you have decided to build. Freedom, stability, growth, service, expansion. The word is just the beginning. After writing it down, take your first action before the day ends. And if you want to keep exploring the relationship between consciousness, perception, and personal transformation, subscribe to Philosophia Interior. Your old reality doesn't end just because you want something new. It ends when you stop obeying the filter that always forced you to choose the same thing.